And if we've done that math out, that's roughly another $3,000 savings from the prescription option.
Yeah, the prescription option, there's some savings there.
Now, it's been proven that generics, first of all, they can't always be prescribed, and secondly, they're not the same.
Right.
They tell you that they are, but I've known people who have gotten extremely ill by being placed on generic medicine just to save money. So I think that's something
That is, but I do think it's
consider.
also worth noting that I think that it's up to almost 90% of drugs are available in the generic form now.
Yeah, I mean, our dispensing rate is about 83%, so, but not, they can adjust some of the fillers that affect people, so that does happen as well, but, and they're forced to take the brand and they have to pay the higher copay in their case, so.
Right.
Now, keep in mind when you get into these copay levels, if the medication costs less than the copay, that's the amount you will be charged. So you may go into the pharmacy and get a $6 copay. It's because the plan always knows to charge you the lesser amount. This other plan down at the bottom, it wasn't one being considered, but it's the Luminoff's plan. It's a high deductible health plan. It's in the green. It qualifies with a health savings account. You can see the premiums. I mean, the site of service plans are lower in premium, so I can explain this plan if you'd like me to, but it's really a high deductible health plan. It would be a rather significant change. So the other plans are more comparable to what you currently have. And just one other quick thing, on the bottom, you'll see this Medicare supplemental plan. You can disregard that because that's the retiree plans, just so you know. I just want to make sure everybody knows.
Has the board decided which prescription plan you're going to go to?
We haven't even discussed it. I've only been looking at keeping it the same as what we have now.
Okay.
Any questions for me? I mean, again, just to remind you, they're all same network. The HMO plan, that big booklet you get in the mail, the subscriber certificate, it's the exact same plan document. It's just your cost share changes depending on the plan. That's the difference. So I don't want you to think you move to these plans and it's not going to cover a major surgery. That doesn't happen, okay? And they're all Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield plans.
So, I mean, obviously nobody wants to have increased costs. And we don't want to have to see you guys have, major increased costs. But at the same time, we're just looking at this from, this side of the table saying these costs are going up to the town every year, substantially every year. And so, looking at this second plan there, the three of us, again, haven't made any decisions, but this one seems to make the most sense as far as having a fairly significant savings to the town with a fairly minimal impact to you guys.
What is the overall savings to the town?
So the overall savings to the town is, it's $22,092. However, again, the town is able to contribute up to half of your deductible, so that would reduce the savings if everybody maxed out their deductibles. But that would bring the savings down to about $19,000 and some change.
I couldn't come up with that map. I came up with the cost of the plan, which is up 5.3%. If you took the proposed plan, the cost difference is just over 19. And then the cost of 50% of the deductibles, plus you have to hire this company.
Well, Melissa and I
not with
spoke
the
about this
FSA.
today, yeah.
Well, yeah, and we got to talk through that because the FSA allows you to put in 500 unless you're maxing the contributions to the employee. So the employee would also need to put money in, and I don't know if they're in a position to do that.
Right. But,
But the FSA does not require an outside vendor.
It doesn't, we
Right,
manage that, we administer right
That
now.
eliminates those administration.
But there are limits to what you can do.
In order to
Does
give
it
us the credit
require
card,
us
we
to
have
put
to
in an
match.
additional
We have to
500
put that money
Yeah,
in that
you
account
have-
also.
yeah.
So even if I don't spend my 1,000, I
Right.
still have to put in my 500.
Yeah,
So,
because it,
so the town can put in 500 off the bat without
Without
including
matching.
any.
Right,
What
without,
happens when I don't hit my 1,000 at the end of the year? Do I get my 500 bucks back?
well, we gotta talk through that because we have to make some changes to the plan documents. If we are, they do have a 500 carryover feature, and there's some grace period that they can implement to use it, to have it carry over to the next plan year. The IRS does allow those two things.
But they don't have to put 500 in for us to, we can do an off the bat $500.
You can do 500, but then it gets, we need to talk through the matching contributions piece, if that's what you're going to be doing. Because employers either do the 500 or they match contributions.
Okay.
And I was reading the language because, we talked a little bit on the phone today, but, the IRS regulates as to what you can do and what you can match and all of that.
So we are able to do an uneven contribution, meaning if they contribute $10, we can contribute $500.
Yeah, because it said, the way it's worded is that you can do, a maximum amount may not exceed the greater of 500 or the amount of the employee's healthcare FSA contribution.
May not exceed.
Yeah, you can, in which, the maximum amount may not exceed the greater of 500 or the amount the employee's healthcare FSA contribution, whatever amount they're electing. But I definitely think we should, I'm not the expert on our end of the FSA. I do think you should talk to Scott in our office, who manages this, eventually, to make sure we're meeting the requirements.
Anyway, so on the single plans, on everybody's plan, we can contribute, the town can contribute $500 to the FSA off the bat. And so on the single plans, you can choose to not contribute anything to that, and that $500 is on that card, and you're ready to use it.
But from the sound of what she's saying, you're putting 500 on the card. I can't just go and use that 500 and then I have to contribute 500.
No, they can put in the $500.
For your year.
Or, they can fund right away $500.
So if I only use 500 in the year,
Yeah.
I don't have to put anything into the FSA.
No, because and then the town has to decide, are they gonna let that carry over the 500 the following year? That is an option, which isn't in place today. Or they can do a 2.5-month grace period, which is what is in place today, and they can, there's a 2.5-month grace
And the
period.
FSA, if I'm remembering correctly, can be used for more than
Everything.
just, if you
Yes.
end up with $100 in there at the end of the year, you can go,
Yes.
yeah, you can use that
Right.
on a much wider base than you can use like an HSA or an
I think I
HRA card.
did, but I can't remember.
But you have to,
But you have to spend it.
so you have to spend $500 of your own money. You do.
No.
No,
This is the $500 that the town puts in.
it can,
It can maybe carry over, we might be able
Carry
to
over.
institute a
Yes.
grace period, but that FSA money is a lot more flexible than HSA or HRA money. So if you get to the end of the year or the end of the grace period and you have $50 or $100 sitting in there, you can get your prescription glasses, you can use that
Yes.
on a pretty wide range of things to use it up.
But what I'm asking, do I have to contribute anything additionally to the FSA?
you do not. So the town, you can put they can put the 500 in for you. And then we just have to decide, do we, now the IRS allows the 500 carryover. So that automatically would happen if you had money left over, we just go over to the following plan year. Right now, the town has the 2.5-month grace period in place, which means you have 2.5 months after the plan year ends to use it. So it's either or of that. And what these are, you can use them, they're flexible spending accounts, health flexible spending accounts, so you can use it for dental, you can, pay your co-pays with them. There's, glasses we talked about, and you can even contribute some to it if you wanted to offset some of your costs. And it's on a pre-tax basis if you're contributing. And I don't think anyone participates today, Cheryl, in that, but
No, we have it set up. and no one
it's set up.
participates.
And it's with the 2.5-month grace period. So we'd have to make some changes to that if we were gonna.
And it is another smart tool to use. We have this bottom, my family has this bottom crazy $10,000 out-of-pocket maximum. But we use our HSA card, I mean, we contribute
Yeah, yeah.
heavily to it with 3 kids and some health problems, and we use it very much to our benefit. I mean, it's another consumer-driven tool that, if you're smart about it, you end up saving you a significant amount of money.
Right, and with that, and I'm right now, I'm speaking for myself, I'm some guy, homeowner, working for this town. I don't have that much money thrown into a flexible spending account to do that, to do what, to do what you guys are doing and use that.
But you don't have to put anything in it if you choose not to.
The-
Would
the
still
town
put the
would be-
500 in it,
Yeah.
you're not required to match it in any way.
Right,
That
no, right,
500
right,
is just
Yeah,
your,
to it,
But as far, I mean, I don't know, just going to this new plan and coming from a hazardous job assignment where, and last night we just had a 10th really, 10th DUI, and they're going out there. It's worrisome to me, and I'm gonna go to another plan where if something happens to me on the job, off the job, clean my cars or whatever, that in order to save some money, I have to go to natural for like follow care or Portsmouth or whatever, which is, it's farther away from me and it's inconvenient. Granted, yeah, I'll make some changes, but I just can't agree with that with, the type of work that we do and what's going on there that might help us to come.
Well, and certainly anything that would happen, anything that's on the job is 100% covered, there's no deductible, right?
Well, I'm talking for even follow care, like we go, therapy, let's say.
Well, none of that type
Yeah.
of stuff, that would all be a workers'
Oh, okay.
comp issue, and that could be,
But even off, what I'm saying is like, even off duty, I've done stuff off duty helping people.
Yeah.
Earlier this month, I pulled a guy out of a car accident, and he was overdosing and stuck with a needle. That's on my time. Town didn't cover that. What if something else happened? And, just things like that, worrying me.
So the town would cover half of the employee's deductible,
correct.
but if they were on a family plan, then that additional deductible would be on
No,
No, we could do-
half of the total
the,
deductible.
of the deductible, whatever the plan is, would be half of that.
because it's gonna be 500 or,
But Jeff, just to try and address your concern, so it certainly wouldn't be, again, if we switched to the plan,
Yeah.
you wouldn't be required to go to these special site of service.
I
Still have
understand.
You just gotta pay.
You pay more.
It could be, because there's, the only thing that would cost more would be this deductible, but the
Right.
town is covering half of it
Right.
for the first $500, I guess we would say, right?
Right.
So
No.
if you only spent,
Excuse me, sorry. Go ahead.
so if you only had $500 total in deductibles,
Yeah.
there's no extra cost to the town for the
Right. I understand that. But,
For a specialist, that would be an increase
yeah,
of
and that's what I'm getting at, because that's basically the majority of what we do is, we go to physical therapists or whatever for health care. That's, my concern.
And what about emergency room care? Because I live literally almost across the street from the Exeter Hospital. So in order for me, to not go to an emergency room, I have to go to, what if you're in pain? I mean, it's unlikely I'm going to drive to Portsmouth or Nashua to save a buck. So,
Yeah.
that doesn't work out at all.
Not when you're in an emergency situation.
That's
Yeah,
what
you're
I'm
just
saying,
going to go.
Chuck's living in,
Where should I go?
he's living in Amesbury, and he's got Anna Jake sitting there, and he's got to think, it doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, and I mean, the ER service, you still have the choice to go on ER services, but you have your copay now and
Right.
some deductible applies for some of those things.
Right.
You'll likely have to pay
Yeah,
that.
but the
Right.
ER
you have the ER copay now,
You
it
do.
stays the same as the service.
It's $100
So that's-
currently, and it would say $100 on the new plan. There's no difference on that.
Right, but it would take so little to run up $1,000 in the emergency room.
Yeah, there was,
A couple of
some of the
blood tests,
services.
I have breathing, respiratory problems, I mean, I could run that up very quickly in one night. And my
But then
choice
you
would
need
be,
the deductible.
Yeah, yeah.
Well,
There's
no,
some
but it's
services that
important
do.
to note that there are some safety nets in place for those types of issues. It doesn't mean that it's not the same as the plan is now, but, you know, you're not all of a sudden receiving thousands of dollars worth of bills because you chose extra hospital. There are safety nets in place. Will it be slightly more expensive to you? Yes, but.
But again, let's just say you're on a two-person plan. The deductible is $1,000 per person, and the town is able to cover $500 per person. So, in theory, if you went to the ER and you ran up a $20,000 bill, your maximum exposure should be $500. Well, for a copay.
Yeah, I mean, you only can do 500 in the FSA per employee regardless, unless you're matching the that's the,
Right.
you gotta work through that.
But in the FSA, correct?
Yeah, the FSA, unless you're doing the HRA.
But so if you're in the emergency room and you have a $20,000 bill, there's a $1,000 per year deductible, and the town is able to cover half of that. So your maximum expense for an emergency room would be $500.
You can put $500 in the FSA per employee, unless you're matching the contributions, which
Right.
we need to confirm. Yeah.
So $500, but also keep in mind that you have saved almost $1,000 in your contributions.
No, I haven't, some single
I'm
person.
talking to the two-person.
And you're not talking to Chuck either.
That $1,000 is eaten up by the
example.
copays, the other,
Right, it's gonna be real safe.
three copays that have doubled. So that, I mean, I'm sure it's kind of a wash.
It's actually, on a two-person plan, it's slightly in your favor. On a family plan, it's slightly more than what you're now. It would be like a $400 maximum out of pocket for a copay per year.
I don't know what you mean.
Difference as far as if you take into consideration on a family plan, your savings would be, as far as contributions, over $1,100 per year.
Because the plan is cheap. You're 80% contribution.
Yes, I understand.
So if you're saving $1,100 per year and your maximum deductible is $3,000, that's for 3 people, right? And the town can cover up to half of that. So that would mean your maximum deductible portion would be $1,500, but you're saving from your contributions $1,100. So the maximum out of pocket for copay would be about $400. So the difference. Does that make sense?
No, you lost me again.
Yeah, because I'm not following where because the maximum out-of-pocket for medical and prescription expenses combined.
No, I'm just talking copay. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, there's 3 copays that have doubled with the different plan. So,
And it seems like the only cap there would ever be on the copays is the maximum out-of-pocket expense here.
On copay, I apologize, I was talking about deductible. Yeah, so the maximum out-of-pocket, again, that one, that can look like a scary number, but your copay goes towards that, your deductible goes towards that, and really the only way to even hit that would be if you're having, very expensive prescriptions, and a lot of them, a lot of medical equipment, that,
That's still a gamble, though.
Yeah, but
It's still on the
I mean,
table.
yeah, for a family, for someone for more than, for someone 1% of the plan, 10 grand is a lot more if you have something chronic.
no, it's 5,000 per person, 10,000 per family. Right now, it's 3,000 per person,
Right.
6,000 per
And
family.
that's a lot, if you have something chronic, it's a lot better pill to swallow than a 5,000, 10,000 deductible. That's not a public cost.
That's
If
not
you have
the
something
deductible.
chronic.
That's not the deductible.
Right, I mean out-of-pocket cost. It's a big pill to
Can you
swallow.
maybe explain like some of the other things that,
What is that?
yeah, I mean, basically, it's almost impossible to get that, right?
Under that plan, we haven't had anyone do it. I think
Under the
that-
new-
Yeah, I mean, there's 3 and the 9 we made.
Well, what I'm saying is, like, what if someone comes out of camp, you gotta go to chemo?
Yeah, it can,
You're gonna go over $5,000 for single and $10,000 for a person on multiple person plans.
but
Your
still in a
your
year,
Deductible is only $1,000.
yeah, 1,000, and then your durable medical equipment will go towards that. Co-pays go towards that, so, you know,
Right,
So
but
durable
you're
medical
still
equipment.
paying, if you're a single person, you're still paying $5,000 maximum out-of-pocket cost for something that doesn't get covered. I mean, I know I'm what-ifing it, I understand
Right.
that, I'm winging this.
That would be like if you need
It could
a hospital bed
happen.
in your house.
Yeah,
That's variable medical equipment. And for that, you have,
or what if I need a nurse, you need a nurse, or someone coming to administer your meds, whatever, what happened? You know, my point is, it's a big pill to swallow for a single person, a single mother, a single father.
Yeah, I mean, I think, it's obvious to everybody that, it's a different plan, it's more expensive to the employees. So I think when we started talking a little bit on what it's actually saving the town, because from my perspective, that's pretty important to know. It's, what are we trading this for? Because it's not keeping our employees' compensation the same, it's knocking it down a peg. And I understand that it's much more expensive every year. But I guess the concern of, because I don't have a dog in this fight specifically, I don't have town insurance. So, to me, I just wonder what's the impact going to be if we decide it's going up every year. We have to try to control these costs somehow, but we know it's going to keep going up every year. So what do? Modify the insurance for the employees every year? I mean, when's the last time we did this? 2 years
Last
ago?
year.
Was it last year?
Last year,
That's
this
kind of
will be
what
our
makes me
second year in a
nervous.
row,
2
third
years in a row.
time in a couple of years.
Yeah.
And I mean, and I can see if it's close to $30,000 the town is saving, but then I've been hearing numbers thrown around that it's closer to 12,000 or 15,000, and I just am curious where we decide the tipping point is where we can't ask the taxpayers to do that. And I'm certainly sensitive to that as somebody that has to help work up these budgets. And, from the library's perspective, we'd like to be as helpful as we can to you guys with trying to keep a ceiling on these costs, because we're sensitive to that fact. But, we also feel like there's public employees and they're not getting rich off of this, and this is part of their compensation. And so we feel like, and, forgive me, because last time this happened, we weren't aware of it until the change had been made, and we found out after January that they had completely different health insurance. And so as a kind of parallel entity to you guys, we'd like to feel like we would have some input on the total compensation package to the employees, and this is a huge part of that. And obviously, we don't have a say over that, that's for you guys. But, to me, I just feel like there's got to be a really strong justification, and I understand the taxpayers are going to decide what they're willing to swallow and what they're not. And, we take that chance with our warrant article every year, asking for $11,000, So I just, to me, that's my concern, is that are we deciding that we just don't think the taxpayers will go for this, and so we're going to ask our employees to shoulder it when, they're not compensated massively for what they do, and this is part of their compensation. So I'm very leery of doing this, especially given the idea that if this is going to keep happening every year, are we going to be sitting in this room every year saying, well, how can we chip away at it a little more and a little more? And we also need to realize that it's not just about what plans people are on right now, it's future employees that we want to attract to this town, and what do we have to offer them? We can't offer them a huge salary, but we can offer them, a really solid plan that takes care of them and takes care of their families. So, I mean, that's where I'm at, that's where we're at from the library's perspective.
I think we're all like that. Definitely.
I think, and I totally appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone's input, and I'm glad that we're all having this conversation. I think, first of all, it's important for everyone to know this is like, it's just a talking point. We're working through it, and it's not in response to some kind of budget crisis. It's just a preemptive move. Every year, everyone, all the town employees get raises, the costs go up on insurance. I mean, I know they're not significant, I'm not.
No, that isn't how it works at the library. We don't get raises every year.
Okay.
They're merit-based raises. We have evaluations. There are many years I don't take a raise so that my employees can have a living wage.
Okay, well, it shouldn't abuse the umbrella, but I'm just saying every year, the health insurance costs go up, everything goes up, and we're always under a lot of pressure to keep the tax rate very stable. So for us, this has been an exploration and, you know, where do
This is simply us doing, this is
Where
it's
do
our
we
job to do this.
where do we make
No,
the
we-
space?
yeah, we
It's a
appreciate
small
that, yeah.
town budget, and, you know, when Tim came in with his budget, there's like no room to get rid of stuff. You know, like, that's how this whole town's budget works. There's no room all the
So
time.
God forbid I could say, do you ever look at the option of not giving raises that year instead of keeping an insurance plan that everyone's comfortable with and,
I
I mean,
think
is
that's
that
where
on the table?
We would come from, you know, that's where we'd like to be with the libraries. We understand the windows are difficult because we have to come up with our budget before the insurance window comes out. And so, you know, they don't really jive that well. But given that we see the health insurance as part of our employees' compensation, we'd like this to be a larger discussion amongst all of us, so that we can look at, if you guys come to us and say, look, we're really worried that if the health insurance goes up this much, we really need to hold this to this ceiling. Well, that's going to impact how we decide what our employees should be making next year. And even if we do think they deserve a merit raise, does it have to be this, or can it be this, but we keep their insurance where it is? And so this, you know, kind of coming after the fact, where we've made our budget decisions, and then we find this out, you know, we might have made some different decisions.
right, why
You know.
give someone a raise if you're gonna take it out of this pocket and they're gonna have it in the
Well,
other?
we didn't have this information until almost December 1.
But we know it's gonna
We
happen
didn't have
every
this
year.
information in August. Having
But
been on the
we've had
school
years,
board.
this year is only a 5% increase, we've had years where it's almost a 30% increase.
So I think that we can safely say it's gonna be an increase every year.
Every year.
But some years it's 1%, some years it's
For
5%.
15 years on the school board, it went up, they would come in to 18%, that's the guesstimate. And then they all came down to 9%, but it always went up. But I think this is an informational thing, I don't think it's ever been done before. Now you participate, but what I can see is, there's something out there on the horizon, and we're all gonna be aware of what's on it, whether we make a change this year or not. Donald Trump might take care of this whole thing for us. It might be an issue that we'll never be talking about again. It might be a certain plan, who knows? But you can see that there is pressure. And, you know, this health insurance just can't keep going, because somebody in town that doesn't have health insurance or doesn't get it through their employer is saying, why am I giving it to my employer?
I mean, it's kind of,
I agree, I understand where you're coming from.
so I look at it that it's unsustainable at the fact where if a family plan costs almost $30,000, and we have people in here whose salary is just barely $40,000, it's mind-boggling that the insurance package is equivalent to, you know, 80% of the salary. It's just nuts. It didn't used to be that way. Now it was maybe 10 to 15%, but it keeps going up and up and up. And we're not far away from the point where the health insurance package is going to be worth more than the salary portion. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me, but that's how it's going to be.
We might be
So we're
getting
just
to a
trying to-
point somewhere where if you guys get a 2% raise, or the employee gets a 2% raise that is taxed at roughly 25%, the employee would be better off saying, don't give me the raise, give it me in health insurance.
Right.
Exactly.
And that's where the whole thing is in a state of flux. And what we're trying to do is, instead of making the decision, the three of us in a dark room, is to bring you guys to get your input. As I said, wait for not come back with questions you haven't, we'll get the answers for you, and then at some time in the future, we'll make a decision.
The other thing, just to keep in mind, as Melissa brought it up, it may or may not change, but right now it's proposed that some of these, the plan that we're on right now is what is considered a Cadillac plan. It's a premium, excellent plan. And in a few years, you would be responsible for paying taxes at 40% of what that plan costs. So again, if the plan is $30,000, I mean, who wants to be responsible for $12,000 in taxes?
And a lot of towns and municipalities are starting to move away from these, we call them dinosaur plans, but because of that health. So, well, you know, they're moving into, it's a painful step now, but it's a safer ground eventually. And I would reckon to guess, and you might have more stable figures on this, but I mean, there are few towns, I would imagine, left holding down this.
Yeah, I'd have to look, I mean, we still have I mean, I think the 80/20 is right now our most popular
Still
plan,
is.
and even a $5 copay plan, the deductibles, I mean, they're making steps that way, but the deductible plans still are not our most popular yet. I
They
mean,
will
that's,
be.
yeah, I mean, I'd be
As
honest,
we get closer to that,
yeah, more and more are doing.
In regards to that
20 or
Cadillac plan,
2018,
that will never come into kick in because the political answer to that question is, well, you might be in a Cadillac plan, you might have to pay tax, and they say, oh, no, certain people will be exempted from that. Well, who's gonna be exempt? And teachers union, they contribute pretty heavy, maybe the car, but you know, the electricians don't contribute. Come on, that's never gonna, they're never gonna be able to pick and choose which favorite group they have. There'd be a war on this, so that's something.
Well, I think it's also worth noting that this is a good conversation to be having, and this is the first step. It's painful, always. I think I did it on the school board. It was excruciating moving them for the first time in years, and I know you guys have moved multiple times, so I'm not comparing apples and oranges, but it's always a painful move. This conversation is the first step. Will it happen this year? Who knows? If we want to keep having a conversation, but yes, as we get closer to 2018 to 2020, like, things will probably be forced to change. So let's start the conversation now and try to work together.
Yeah, and that's really our belief, is just to be included in this whole thing, because I mean, we'd like to think that we could, help as much as we can with, our budget being such as it is, but, as much as we can.
And I mean, I know that it's different in the private sector, but what you may or may not realize is that the plans that we have now they're really, really good. The packages that we have, they're really amazing.
Appreciate it. Completely.
And we want to be able to offer that to you, but in the private sector, when people are contributing to their plans, they're contributing 50% or 70%. And to contribute zero is it's unheard of. And it's a great thing to be able to offer. And if we want to be able to keep it at that, we just need to try and find other relief valves, I guess you could say. So I think we're just trying to come up with creative ideas. And in lieu of going to a 10% or 20% contribution, if we can look at having a $500 deductible that could save thousands of dollars per year. It's one option that we're looking at. And again, no decisions are being made tonight, but we want to start the conversation.
If one of you people that were on a family plan, let's say work with me, and I had to cover you with $28,000 a year on my medical insurance, you know what that represents my hourly rate that I represent? $14 an hour. I'd have to charge $14 an hour to cover the medical one. Forget what you want in your envelope, take home with. I gotta pay, and that doesn't cover the FICA, Social Security, everything. I mean, medical and medical, $14 an hour at that. You're not in that case, but I mean, you can see how wacky this is.
When does this decide, when are you making this decision?
We can make a decision at any time and have it implemented 2 months later. We passed the deadline to have this implemented for January 1st. So I guess we just really needed to get some feedback from you guys and see what your thoughts are, if you have any other ideas as well, because again, we want to at least be able to go to the deliberative session and say, we've looked at this. These are different options that we've looked at, and ultimately the savings weren't enough to justify making a change, or we were able to make X amount of savings by making this type of change, and the employees were willing to go along with these types of things. Or not. So, I mean, we have to have that conversation ahead of time.
And is this a question that comes up? I haven't been to a deliberative session. Are these questions that come up from the taxpayers?
Never before. I've never heard of it. Just so you know, we don't have to make a decision yet. First of the year. Let's say hypothetically there was a $12,000 savings, roughly $1,000 a month. We could make the decision in June, we just wouldn't get the savings for that first 6 months. But we would lose out on $6,000. So, we can make this January, February, March, April. More questions, doesn't have to be done tonight.
Yeah, and any changes you modify the FSA plan, I explained a little bit earlier, it has to be on 1/1/7, the plan year, January 1st. So if we were modifying the FSA plan in any way based on the discussions tonight, we'd have to do it for this January. You can delay the plan change, but the FSA has to be done, set up before then.
Any other questions?
Have you seen the trend of towns moving away from final down?
Right now, this plan is the most popular, but yeah, I mean, more and more they're talking about deductible plans and moving to them. It's still a small percentage of the population, but more and more they are. I mean, this is still our most popular plan though. If you looked at our population, who we cover, this is the most popular one, so.
What is, if you happen to know, what would be the average contribution, employer contribution?
Yeah, I would say it's running 85 to 90%. You know, it depends on the community, you know. If I had to, it would be 80 to 90%.
That includes single
That the
family.
town's picking for. And then they change it, you know, I mean, it may be good to look at the school system contracts. Those are all online through a website.
Yeah.
All the towns, if they have a union, they're online, they're union contracts, I can send the link to kind of see what others are doing. And then our NHMA does a survey as well, you can access.
And would they have a breakdown by single, two-person family plans?
Yes, they would tell you, like, it's a survey to all the towns. I don't know if you've accessed it, Cheryl, but there's a survey that New Hampshire Municipal Association, that's what you're a member of, so. And I think it's all electronic now, so we can give that information to Cheryl. It's a survey of all the benefits packages and what towns are offering.
Okay?
Yeah, I mean, I'll shut my mouth. I just feel like, if it's not coming from direct pressure from the taxpayers, then I'm a little less inclined to go for it. And just in terms of trying to think creatively and understanding we all need to work together and holding these costs down, I mean, even if it's something like, the library typically puts forward our $11,000 warrant article for our maintenance reserve fund. If we come to a year where that's the difference between keeping our employees' health insurance the same, we'll withdraw that for a year, and not put that pressure on the taxpayer, just not put it in front of them. I mean, not that that's going to solve every problem in the world, but, just to show that we're willing to give something, and it's like, we always have to weigh, well, how much do we need to have in that piggy bank to fix the building if something goes wrong? We also have to weigh how we're compensating our employees. So the more opportunity we have to have discussions like this, we really just appreciate it. Because, we'll come up with, whatever we can.
Yeah, I mean, we're not under the gun that, we have to come up with a way to save $20,000 in the next 2 weeks. But, 20,000 here, 20,000 there, pretty soon it adds up to some serious numbers. So, we, as a board of selectmen, we have to constantly do our due diligence on every penny that gets spent. And this year we happen to take a closer look at the healthcare plans. Is it going to break the bank if we stick with it? No, absolutely not. It's $20,000 savings. It's a good chunk, but it's going to have ultimately not a major impact on each taxpayer's bill. But again, if you take all the $20,000 chunks and add them up, now you've got $500,000. It does. So again, maybe no change this year. Maybe next year we're going to see a 20% increase in health and care plans, and then we'll really have to take a look at it. But just bring it up so that we're all kind of aware of what these costs are, or what the options are, and kind of what we have to do to where we're at.
No surprise.
You guys foresee making a decision soon or no? Are you guys gonna talk about it, or we'll maybe some more?
I don't
No
see
decision
it.
to make tonight, for sure. But
Yeah, I don't see a decision being made imminently.
no decision's gonna be made without, if we decide that we're
Yeah,
gonna
we're
make a
gonna be
decision,
included
we'll
again.
talk again and say, we wanna go with this route, or we decided not to go with this route. But if we do decide that we're leaning heavily towards something, we can talk again and say what our thoughts are. And
We're very interested in having this all be a transparent conversation. Everyone hates surprises, we hate surprises. So hopefully we can all sit down more often going forward and talk these things through. And
As long as you need to move, you can. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Melissa,
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thanks for the word.
If you need me again, let me know.
Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Hey, you're off the clock.
Oh, I don't mind. That's what I'm there for.
Still, it's a survey, right?
It's a
But the
lot.
survey, you know, survey, that may be good to look at, what else?
I know what you mean.
It's the NHMA one, right? You go out electronically, see it, it breaks it out by size of communities.
Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing.
That's really good information, and you
Really?
have that.
I
And I know they do that survey, so.
Okay, very good.
And I can do actually, the same wording too. And also what you can do, and, you know.
Yeah, I think we need to be really clear on those kind of things. That company that I called, $2,500.
I know, was that group dynamics?
That was benefits strategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of, well, that's.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
My kids are dying. My kids are the biggest.
I got 2 wires.
Ever before the house burns down.
I have like 9,000 presents around.
Good night, thanks.
Clayton, you guys all, they come in and put the heat tomorrow. They start about 10 o'clock.
Thank God. I've been a little cold.
Okay, if it gets cold out there, let me know.
Because when it was negative 13, it was like 32 inside. Just above freezing.
Well, that's the reason we're changing, because it's been working.
Put on a sweater. My mother always said. That's what I say to my kids. Put on a sweater.
Right, did you get together with him to pick that bone, whatever one of those Humvees that you want?
No, I haven't yet.
The big bone?
I haven't yet.
I do think it would be good to talk to the FSA person in our office,
Yeah.
rather than me kind of
Yeah.
asking the question. So if you want to do that, I can give them your information and
Please
talk
do,
to
yeah,
them.
that'd be great.
Because I want to make sure you get the right
Okay,
information about that.
perfect.
Hey, happy Merry Christmas.
Hey, you do.
Thank you so
Bye.
The neighborhood stop over Thursday at noon and have pizza.
Oh, really? Nice.
We should no one wants to come to these.
I live in Epsom, so it's not too bad.
Is it worth a free slice of pizza?
Yeah, maybe.
I think it won't be parked on the road.
Yes. Well, thank you all.
Thank you
If anything
very
comes
much.
up, just let me know.
All right,
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I got something surprise.
So we shut.
We need to go into non-public?
I don't know, it's basically about vacations and some surplus time, things like that I'm probably gonna have, somebody else, to see what we're gonna do, what we can do with that vacation.
Yeah. We definitely need to come up with a real set in stone policy on this. Like,
Will you get
beginning
carried
of the
over?
year.
How much, roughly?
Right now, 36.
36.
Except, well, hold on, because 80 we can carry, correct?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I got 116 right now, and I'm trying to just peg off an hour here, an hour there, so that's what I'm doing. But, you know, let's say it's probably gonna be around 30 hours. So I'm asking if we can just carry it out this year, just due to a shortage. If we
You
can't
already
do
spoken to the chief, though?
is that?
You already spoken to the chief about this?
Yeah, he was gonna bring that up with you guys,
Is he already out?
but he's out on medical leave and I'm the guy now, so. You know, I'm just, obviously, again, we've got one more payroll. So whether it gets carried over,
You take next week off?
I tried, this would have been a non-issue,
Sure, I got.
but Thanksgiving was when all this would have been gone. But so there's no way, you know, I mean, I've looked, I've tried, believe me, I'd rather have the time off.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just not gonna happen. So let's say it's gonna be roughly 30 to 36 hours over the 80. I'm asking, my first choice would be asking if I could carry that over next year. My second choice would be if I could get a payout for 36 hours. You know, obviously, I don't know, I don't want to lose it, I don't think I can lose it, right? So I guess it would just be how we can figure that out.
Okay. you have a preference just to carry it all over, or?
Yeah, my preference would be to carry it all over. Like I said, I'm trying to pick a way. So let's say I work 10-hour shifts, but if I can bang out an hour early, 2 hours early, or if I work an 8-hour day instead of 10-hour day, I'll just plug it out as a vacation. But when you look at our schedule, we can't even fill January right now. You know, we're working overtime, all of us. So take off vacation is overtime.
If we carry it over, we're supposed to come up with a policy.
Yeah.
Could you get rid of it in the carryover by June? Would that be?
I hope so. I mean, a lot of this hinges on Garrett, right? Garrett resigns, we can fill that spot. We're back up to full. Then we can now start taking some time off. You know.
Are you the only, did you just say this, are you the only one with
Yep.
trying to carry over?
Yep. Yep.
Clayton doesn't have extra?
He said he'll be down to 0 by the end of the year. He's
Oh,
already.
okay. Oh, good.
Chuck will be down to 0. What I mean by 0 is they're down to 80.
They're gonna hit
Yeah.
what they can.
You know, I just haven't been able to take those days off.
All right, well, I'm going to say due to the circumstances, I'll make a motion that we make an exception for now and allow the carryover for this year. But I really should come up with like a policy for next year for what to do during the
Yeah, but they
season.
gotta know, I agree totally, but they gotta know in advance.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
we can activate the policy in June of next year. That's why I asked, can you get rid of it?
Yeah, I mean, and realistically, I mean, what did we have to give Garrett for the leave?
When you gave him 6 months, but the chief in one of the 6 months, said he was willing to settle for 10 weeks when he first started out. All he wanted to do was be covered while he was.
No, he came in with a 6 month. I saw the letter. The
Well,
first day he came in, he
At
wanted
the end
6
of
months.
10 weeks,
Yeah.
they own it. You and I both.
I know that.
They own.
But I'm saying worst case scenario, 6 months, so I think it was November 1st that so November, December, April. So by April, we need to hire somebody. Now, how long does that take?
Right.
It could take a couple months as well.
I'm wondering if we can get the interviewing and everything out of the way.
Is it pointless to do the interviewing though if you can't offer the job?
I think I can talk to Garrett and get him, as soon as he graduates from that school, I'll get him.
That's what I'm hoping, and yes, I think it would be, how do you pose it to somebody? Well, this guy has a chance to come back. If that's the case, he comes back, then you're not gonna have a job.
Right. So go through the interview process.
You guys know going through the police process, hiring process is rough. Anyway,
Garrett's already in week 3 of an 8-week or 10-week process, so he's almost halfway there at this point. I mean, he's talking about being out there January 20th. So once they send him, not to belabor, once they send him to the school he's going, they guaranteed him the school. If they cancel the school or they couldn't give it to him, they would have to give him the option of getting out. But if he's in that school and he flunks out, they don't say pack your bag and go home. They say, we need a cook in Altoona and you're gonna be the cook. You signed up before, you're also for. So in 10 weeks, he's gotta be off the bus.
and we can, I mean, I'm gonna talk to the chief and we'll work on some scheduling in order to be able to knock these hours off.
Right.
You know, I don't want it to be a burden. I mean, that obviously, that's not my fault that I have extra hours. I'm working.
Well, not, especially now that we're down short
Exactly.
2 guys, there's no,
All right, so I made a motion that we'll carry it over for this year.
I'll second it.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Absolutely, yeah. Wait, I enjoy my time off.
Very good.
Are you working during the day Thursday or you won't?
This Thursday, I'm working night shifts always.
You're off and about? See you soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks for
Very
this.
good.
Have a
Absolutely.
good one.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Thanks.
I wanted to let you guys know I spoke at length with Bart today about Clark Road. And so he's going to prepare an email and send it over to me with the exact verbiage for which RSAs to reference and whatnot. But he said it certainly is possible for us to, I forget exactly the way that he said it, but essentially if we get petitioned by the road agent to lay out the highway or town road of Clark Road, then we can accept it as a road pending the use of the bond and the additional.
The only thing in our ordinance, it says that once the road is brought up to the specs by the, in final approval by the town engineer, it's not accepted by the town for 2 years following that.
Right, this is a separate thing, he says it.
We can go out, so we can break our own ordinance to do this?
Yeah.
Okay.
So otherwise, you're spending public money on a private road, which,
Yeah.
but if we are petitioned by the road agent to lay out the public road, we can accept it pending. But there's, so again, he's gonna email me back the thing, it has to be, public notice, public hearing, abutters are notified, so I think it was 60 days, or it was either 30 days or 60 days, like a 30-day notice. So there's a little bit of a process, but we can do that.
Okay.
And he said we actually can also, if this is our plan to do this, we can, if we have the additional $10,000 as unspent from road agent's budget from this year, we can encumber that and use that in 2007.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
So.
Hopefully we'll have that.
Yeah. So I'll make a motion that, based on the recommendation of town council, that if we have surplus funds in the road agent's budget for 2016, that we encumber, let's say, up to $20,000 to do the completion and upgrades to Clark Road to bring it up to specs so that we can accept it as a public road.
And that's Rodham as well?
Clark and Road.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great.
All right, so if you can send an email to one of the Clark Road people.
Right after the new year, let's schedule a work session because I have all the policy stuff.
Great.
I have multiple policies from surrounding towns.
Sure.
I have some ideas for some amendments we might want to make.
Sure.
But there are great portions of them that have been approved by whatever the New Hampshire legislature, whatever the governing body, like I have Fremont's and Brentwood's, and they're all approved. I can't think of the term for it right now. It's so strange, but I think they can be modified slightly, but they are pretty comprehensive new policies set in place. So I think that we should piggyback on them and just get it.
These are personnel policies.
Personnel policies.
And then also Bart had requested if you can just email him a copy of the trustees of the trust fund with his correspondence.
Sure.
Is that off?
No, we get a motion to adjourn.
All right, I'll make a motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye. Shut it off.